Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to work on endgames and I will show you a couple of patterns, a couple of motifs that are extremely useful when it comes to your chess endgame. So first of all, first chapter, we have 12 separate chapters. Here with white pieces, white plays and wins, you can pause and try to find a solution. For those of you who already know the answer here, you don't want to go for anything with the king. You don't want to go king f5 because basically black could try to go g4 and just fix the pawn structure and eventually go h4. No, in this position, what we want to achieve is something extremely funny in a way. So you want to play h3 because if black now goes king h7, you just capture the pawn. And if black goes, for example, h4, you want to go g4, the king once again has to move. And if black goes h4, I'm sorry, g4, then you go h4, once again, the king has to move. Let's say now that we go king f5, just to show very quickly, here g4, if you go king f6, this is just not the same because here black has a very beautiful way of defending. Feels like I'm talking about nonsense, but this pattern is very important. We have h4 here. So what is happening? First of all, if king f5, then I can basically at the very least just capture, and even if you manage to go catch this pawn, I mean, you won't, there's basically nothing here. So, this is just to show you that h4 is just a brutal idea. Feels a little bit hard. I know it will get worse. Second chapter. So in this position, we have the white pieces and we are trying to basically win as always. You can pause and try to find a solution. Now I'm going to show you the solution. It's actually very simple. Here you have a so-called pawn majority. You have 4 pawns against 3 on the queen side. What you want to do is eventually push b5 because if captures, this is not winning yet. But imagine if the pawn was on a4, you could eventually play b5, and then after all those trades, you might eventually have a passed pawn. The problem is if you go a4, black just captures right there, and now even though you're capturing back and it feels like you're one way away of basically promoting, black can go for something like king e4, f4, f3, f2, f1. Don't forget that your opponents also have threats when they are playing against you. So here we want to prevent this capture. We capture on d5 first. That is the solution. So first of all, if the pawn captures back, the point is that we want to go a4. And now, even though you're going to push your pawn, I'm faster. I'm 3 pawn moves away of promoting. You are 4 pawns away of promoting. One more detail. Let's just say that you push, and I push. You push, and I push, and you push. I don't make a queen, because if I make a queen, you make a queen also. That's going to be a draw. No, I go king e2. Since you can't prevent me from promoting, even if you go king f3, I can just make a queen. Or I can be a psychopath and play king f1, which basically prevents you from castling completely. If this makes sense and it's all right, if it doesn't, then you can just pause the video, ask me in the comment section. I will be there to answer you. Let's just go on with the third chapter. So now it is white's turn to move, and now it's more of a defending puzzle, just giving you a hint, because, when you're not playing the whole game, it's very hard to basically have the right approach. But here, you can pause and try to find a solution. Nice position. So here what you want to go for is something that feels a little bit odd. So black has so many pawns and so many ways of creating ruptures and tensions on the queen side. It feels like we have to defend against that and go at h4. The problem of h4 is that black still goes e5. And even if you capture, black is going to play g5 either way. The problem is that black has to prevent the pawn from advancing, so black goes king d5 first, which is just fixating the pawn. And now we could eventually capture the pawn, but yeah, black is just too fast. b5, f4 captures, g4, gh, whatever. Those pawns are basically running. 3 moves away of promoting, 4. So here, of course, this is just completely winning. And by the way, if we calculate it that way, just to show you, because when you're one move away of promoting, it's not a problem because you're still promoting after the promotion. The problem is that in that case, there are 2 checks, and this is just absolutely losing because after all those checks, you can go h5, and once again, those pawns are promoting. I'm sorry, this pawn is promoting, those 2 aren't. So here, instead of doing all of this, you just go king takes a5, which is now basically allowing you to go b4, which goes a lot faster. Let's just say now that you go e5, the same idea as before, captures king d5. Now I'm fast enough and I can push and promote. And even though it feels like you're going to be in time, this time you're not. This time you're not going to, because after all those moves, queen, queen, now the resulting position is this one, where you have a queen and a pawn. Yeah, a queen and a pawn both lined up and connected together, just sticking to the king, and the king is basically not going anywhere. All right, let's go on with the fourth position. So it is another very important theme, and this theme does happen very often, also in some middle games. I will eventually show you one of them in a minute. But here it is now white's turn to move. White plays and wins. So I will already show you the answer. In that position, the white king does have a nice tension against the f4 pawn. The problem is that there is a g pawn. But it's not because there is a g pawn that we are losing or not winning yet or anything. The reason why we're not winning is because we have a passed pawn, but we can't push it anywhere. So instead of just playing this illegal move to deflect the pawn and force it on f4, and then we can start to push our pawns, we play h4. So h4 is just threatening to capture the pawn, obviously. And what it's concretely doing is that it's disrupting completely the pawn structure. Black has to do something about that. And if black doesn't, then we just push or capture and we win. Capturing here would be way too slow. Obviously, we're already on our way to promote. So if black captures on h4, we just capture on f4. And this pawn is going to promote. This one isn't. Every single time you try to advance, I go back. Even if you capture, I push. And this is obviously winning. We're always back in time to win. And the white pawn isn't in our square. Next position. So this one is more funny than the previous one. So it's a lot easier. But here, as black, um, black can basically just capture on h5. And the problem that we have is that if we go g4, I'm sorry, g6, black just goes h4. And the problem is that we can't move at all with the white pieces. And what I realized is that when I first brought this position here, and I just realized it now, but I think it's good enough still because it's like 2 a.m. in the morning. It was just a small way to start a series and just for you guys to let me know if you're actually interested into more endgame courses and what you would like me to change for the next uploads. But here basically I wanted this position to be white's turn to move. So maybe let me just cheat for a second. I will just triangulate. Okay. I wanted this position to be white's turn to move because I wanted to show you a very funny pattern. If you capture on g6, uh, black can't stay in contact with the pawn, so black goes for something like king e7. Then we go king f5. Black goes king f8. And here we go king f6 because if king g8, there is g7. The king has to move back to g7. And now if you go king f7, this is stalemate. This is the funny thing that I wanted to show you, but I just made a mistake. No, here the only move is super hard to see. But basically you just promote to a queen. The king captures back, and now you want the king to, you want to force the king back. What you can do is that you can go king g6, because if g6, then for example, king h8 or king f8, you push, and this is just a draw. And even if you move back, this is still going to be a draw. You stay behind the pawn, this is a draw. If you want to learn more about endgames for beginners, just let me know. But basically, yeah, you make a queen, and now we go king g6, because if king h8, you go king f7, and you have this tunnel for your pawn. The black king can't do anything about it, yeah? And if you go, I'm sorry, again, king f8, then you go king h7, once again, you have your tunnel, which is absolutely winning. So we stopped there for this time. Basically, 5 small chapters, 5 small positions. Let me know what you're thinking about all of that. Let me know if you need any more endgame positions for the future. If you feel like this series is just useless, just send me a message. Let me know. I know that this time I solved some very simple stuff. I went super, super fast, above everything. But the goal is very simple. You don't have time to lose, guys. The same way that when you are paying someone to make you, a burger, you're not looking for the guy that is showing you how he's making great burgers in 45 hours, when the guy that makes you the best burger right now, the most effective burger, and if you have to pay, like, okay, let's just put some crazy numbers, 5,000 euros into a guy that makes a burger in 5 days, and 5,000 euros for someone that does a better job in 30 seconds. Maybe you want a better job in 30 seconds for the same amount of money. All right. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. See you in the future. Take care.